Okay, so good morning to everyone. We are going to start with a new chapter and new unit today. Okay, that is your fifth unit, chapter 1. Chapter name is Persistence, Object Relational Mapping, and JPA. So basically, we need to start with a very basic definition of data. As we all know, data is a very important part of any computer application. A computer applications which is require, like, why basically all the computer applications are required, so that the person or the any other computer can access the data which we are storing into those computer applications. Okay, using those computer applications, these data can be used in many different ways. Your data can be read only, it can be read write, it can be updated with multiple requests, it can be modified, it can be used in the bulk data retrieval form. Okay, so we all know that how data is important and how data can be stored in different formats, in different forms. Okay, how you're going to give the permission to access your data, to modify your data. You can have your data over the request which can come from the client to access it or to fetch the data from your database. Okay, the multiple requests can also happen for the same type of a data or a same data which is stored in one database. Fine, so data is very important. You, when you talk about any computer application, when you talk about any web applications which you are going to create. Okay, in a web application, when I am going to make it live and when I know that there is going to be an interaction between your client and a server and the database, then that means we are going to have number of information and data which we are going to collect it from user. Okay, now what do you mean by persistence? So this chapter, in this chapter, the very first word which comes in the chapter name, that is what? Persistence. So basically, why and what is persistence, that we have to understand first. Why I have given you the data's definition, and then why there is a requirement of persistence, that we have to understand. Okay, we all know what data is, where the data come from. Okay, how the data has been generated using the web applications or any computer applications, and how it is going to play a major role, how it is going to be stored in different forms, how it is going to be given the permission to access and fetch those data, whether you want to allow the client to modify or update your data into the database, or you just want to make them to read your data. Okay, so that can be a read only data. So this was all about your data's definitions and data's features. Okay, now we have to learn what is persistence. Basically, when you talk about the many business applications which obviously is going to require a lot of data. When I talk about any web application, any business application, any computer application, the whole application is basically based on the customer's data, what we are going to get it. Okay, here it is saying that it must be persistence. Persistence means, if at all is there any kind of a problem, day to day problems occur, like maybe it is a system crash, maybe it is a server down, maybe it is a network failure, anything we can talk about which can happen on day to day basis. It can be a normal problems, it can be a smaller problems which occurs normally. Okay, in the web application, whenever we make it live and whenever it is in use by the customers. So basically, to deal with those problems, these problems, okay, when the data is able to deal with these problems, when the data is able to manage to come out of these problems, that data is something called as a persistent data. Okay, so the data can be labeled as persistence, the data can be called as a persistence when it is going to manage, or when it is going to meet the, or when it is going to survive the day to day problems. And that day to day problems can be anything, like your system crash, your server gets down, your network failures, or performance lagging by the application, anything we can talk about. Fine. Now, there is a possibility that obviously multiple users requests can come for the application, for the data they want to get it from the application. It will happen simultaneously also. Simultaneously means at same point of time that number of multiple users requests are hitting to the web application. Okay. So there are chances that the data can get corrupt because of the so many requests for the same type of a data. There is a chances of data getting corrupt. There can be system failure in between the mid of request. So these are all the different problems which can occur when the multiple requests from the users are going to come simultaneously. So to maintain the persistence of data, persistence means, I hope everyone now understand, it is that term which actually defined the data when it is going to manages the all problems what we have just listed out. Okay, So basically, maintaining that persistence of data in an enterprise application is bit challenging. It's quite challenging job. So we have to make an application in such a way that it is going to have that persistency in its application. Persistency of the data, it should be there in the application. Now, in enterprise application architecture, basically the data persistence is been implemented for two things. Okay, first thing, to have the data which can be stored outside an application. That means that can be your relational database management system. Okay, so when you're going to create an applications, but obviously inside your one application, what you are coding in your one program, there it doesn't have the databases. Okay, if you want to have an active memory kind of thing where you can store your data, if you want to have the place where you can have a persistency of the data, go with the relational database management system, or you can say the object oriented database, or you can say the flat file systems. Okay, like your Excel, and you can say the ODS files which you have it. Fine. Then the second thing where the data persistence can be implemented, when you're going to have a rollback system. That means if any case of failure occurs, okay, where the state of the data needs to be rolled back to the last known valid data state. That means if, say for example, before 1 hour the data was, uh, they were not able to, keep the storage of the data what is there in the interaction between the client and the server, because of the system failure, because of the system lagging. So what they have to do, they have to just go back to that 1 hour state, and then they have to roll back all those data what they have lost it. They have to recover it. So your application should also have a rollback system where they can just go back and get collect the data which may be, getting lost due to the system failure. So the enterprise application architecture must have the data storage in the form of a relational database, which can have an active memory, which can store your data, which can make your data persistent, and also you should have a rollback system where in case of failure of the system, you can just go back and have the all data which can be rolled back and can take all the lost data. Now, while choosing the persistent data store, that means while choosing the, data storage like your RDBMS, where you can have your data and make your data persistence, you need to have fundamental qualifiers which needs to be, considered while choosing those kind of a data storage places or data bases. What you can talk about. So you should, consider the length of the time that is, going to be taken by your data to become a persistence. Okay, also the volume of the data which you are going to store into that data store. So these two things are most important things which you can consider while having the, data into the data store, and you want to make your data persistent. The first thing which going to be considered as length of the time which you are going to take to make your data persistent, or basically your data store where you're trying to store the data. Okay, how much time it is going to take to store your data and make it persistent, and also the volume of the data, the length, you can say, the volume, how much of data you're going to store it into your database. That is also a second qualifier that must be considered. Now, persistence over several sessions or the several users, which is going to require a larger data store, larger amount of data, which is, been expected that it is going to be getting stored into your data store. You can go with the persistence instead of going with the sessions. HTTP sessions, don't expect that your HTTP session, basically HTTP session doesn't maintain any type of a state or a data of the database of the interaction which happens between client and the server. Okay, we need to use some techniques or the technologies like cookies, URL rewriting to make your session, get live, and even after the session gets closed, it will be live for a certain period of time because of the technology, so that it can maintain some interactive data. Okay, but we cannot completely rely on such things. We need some external data store where I can store my data and it will be persistent. Now, persistence in Java, what does it mean? So most of the enterprise systems and applications definitely is going to save the data into the relational database. Okay, it can be anything. It can be your SQL. It can be like MySQL, SQL Server, or MySQL. Okay, you can talk about Oracle. So these are all the relational databases where you can actually save your data. Okay, and most of the enterprise application nowadays are saving the data in such type of a databases. Okay, Also, the persistence in Java usually means of storing the data into the relational databases using the SQL queries. Obviously, if I want to interact with the database, I want to store my data into the external storage place where something it is called as a database. Okay, that external data store is called as a database. If I want to store any data into the database, we need the queries. We need a query language because that is the only language your database is going to understand. Okay, so that is something called as a structured query language. Fine. Now, if I want to make the database external database to communicate and store the data which comes from the application enterprise applications which I am going to develop using in Java language, so we need an API, the Java API, that is nothing but the JDBC. Okay, JDBC is an API which is going to use to connect your relational database to your language called as Java, where your client is also going to able to access your database where the data is stored. Also, there is option of firing the SQL statement. So if you remember, we have done servlet programs, there we have done the database connectivity steps also. I have shown you that how you can fire the select query, how you can have the update query, how you can have a delete query, how you can use the create statements, insert statements. So you are allowed to use SQL statements even in your Java programs when you are going to use the Java API called as JDBC. Okay, you'll be able to connect to your IDBMS. Now, the persistence of an object-oriented model. So we know that today most of the development which is are going to be carried out, it is happening in the object-oriented language, using an object-oriented language like your C, C++, and Java. C is not a object-oriented, it's a procedure, but C++ and Java. Okay, object-oriented program is completely based on objects. We all know that object-oriented means what? That programming language, what we are calling it as object-oriented, it is something completely based on the objects. The whole work of the program is been done by the objects. Okay, in one of the chapter we have also learned that how the objects is going to hold the data. Everything what you talk about in the program, what you're going to design, what you're going to develop, is being held by the objects, and the object is going to execute your program. Okay, also the objects are going to be giving us an option to easily traverse through the relationship graphs which we are going to use, such as an inheritance and associations. So basically, if I have number of classes created, the objects are also going to help me if I am having some you can say the relationship between number of classes which we are developing it. So we can have the use of the inheritance. We all know that what inheritance is. So basically the objects are also going to easily traverse to those classes where from where I am inheriting the things. Fine. However, when dealing with the data store, it's very important to note that the table of the database are not objects. So whatever tables what we are going to create into our databases, they are not representing any form of objects. They are simply a table which are there in the database. If I'm just talking about the programming language like a Java, where the objects are present. Okay, so those objects needs to convert the language of the programming what we have done in the form of an SQL language if they want to interact it. Fine. Or else, as a developer, we have to write the query so that your database can understand that what exactly want to say that. Now, why there is a need of an object-oriented model? Because in Java, basically the business logic we generally write it and implement it for our application. Okay, design patterns and sophisticated object-oriented concepts like your inheritance, polymorphism, we can use it when we go with the object-oriented models. Code reusability and maintainability, platform independence, scalability, extendability. So all these features what object-oriented programming language carries, we can have it in our the database if you are just going with the object-oriented models. Why there is a need of a relational database? Because the simple first thing what is being expected is the data persistency. So relational database is basically giving us that option. We are able to use the data persistence technology. It is also going to provide you the flexible and the robust approach for the data management into the database. So if you want to, update, modify, delete anything, you want to do it in the database with your data, you are, allowed to do that, because it's very much flexible, and it is giving you the robustness as a feature to do that data management into your database. Now the current persistence standards in Java. So when I told you that as a Java developer, when we try to code something and when we have to have the connectivity, we write some connectivity steps in a Java program. So but obviously whatever we write in our layman language, in the human readable language, it's not in the query language, but still your Java language can connect to your database and can interact with your database. Okay, can store the data into the database, can make the data persistence into the external storage place like your RDBMS. Okay, so if you remember, we have learned one concept called as serialization and deserialization, which was completely meant for the objects. So when I say that I am having an object in my program, and when I want to make the things to communicate with the database, I need to have the conversion first. Okay, what will happen basically when I write a program, when it gets compiled, when your objects needs to be converted, because your object is the major and important part in your program, which is holding almost all the type of a data of your program. So it needs to serialize, it needs to get converted, its state needs to get converted in the sequence of bytes, so that that byte data can be rebuilt into the language of the database. Okay, and that conversion and that creation, you as a developer don't have to do it. There are a number of APIs which are present. Okay, there will be the database which you are using it, there will be an API in the Java which is going to work in between to make that conversion happen for the databases. Fine. What will be the limitation of serialization? It is not going to be suitable for the large amount of data. It is going to lack in the data integrity. It is not going to have a concurrent access to the informations which are stored in the database, because it needs a conversion every time. There is no querying capability we have in the terms of serialization. Second thing which can be used, that is your JDBC. So JDBC, obviously this is an API which comes, overcomes a lot of limitations which serialization was having it. So there in serialization, it was not able to handle the large amount of data. So but obviously JDBC API is able to handle the large amount of data. It is obviously going to ensure the data integrity, which was not, by maintaining by your serialization. Here also we have a number of concurrent, support of concurrent access to the information, which was again not there in the serialization. It provides a sophisticated query language, it supports a query language in SQL. Okay, so JDBC API is basically supporting your query language. Fine. And we all know that when we talk about the databases, any database you take up, okay, so they must have the JDBC API if they want to have a connectivity with the Java language. Fine, because JDBC API is whole and soul meant and developed for the Java language. If you remember, we had JDBC and ODBC. ODBC is for all the native languages, all the type of object oriented languages. It can connect to any language, to any databases. But if I want to go with the JDBC, which is exclusively meant for the Java, I need an JDBC API. Okay, your databases, RDBMS, whichever you are going to use it, it needs to support the JDBC API. It needs to have a JDBC driver, it needs to have a JDBC URL. Then only the database will be able to communicate with the your Java programs. Fine. Here there's one disadvantage, you can say JDBC is not going to provide the ease of use, is not designed for storing the objects. It just allow the Java programs to have a direct communication and interaction with the databases. So basically the JDBC is something who allows the communication, it doesn't store any type of a data. Okay, where in serialization the objects were able to hold the data, but here when you are going to use a JDBC, the objects are not going to get the data, but it is going to be directly into your databases. Fine. Next, what we have an option to deal with the data persistency is EJB2 entity beans, which is again a providing an object oriented view over your persistent data, which will make your, you can say, allowing you to have the portable across the number of vendors, because it is going to have a strict standard which needs to be followed. Okay, now if I say there is an EJB 2.x means 2.1, 2.2, something like that. Okay. So what can be the disadvantages of the EJB version which is more than 2.0? It can be 2.1, it can be 3.2, it can be 3.1. So what is going to be the disadvantages of those versions of EJB, which was also able to hold the data or the objects data, make the data persistent, but there will be some disadvantages also we are going to have it when we make use of EJB 2.x version. So it is going to be very much slow. It is going to have a difficulty to code. They are not going to be serializable. That means there is no conversion of sequence of bytes of the object data. Okay, it requires one-to-one mapping of the data to the database tables. Okay, it requires an expensive applications which can run into your servers, and they'll be residing inside your J2EE applications, those applications which you are going to create, which can consider as an enterprise application. Okay, so you need an expensive applications to be run inside your servers. Okay, to make your enterprise application to get execute inside your servers, and lot of demands they have. It requires the specific developer or an EJB developer to work with these kind of an entity. It is not going to offer the features like what object oriented model was allowing us, that like your inheritance and polymorphism and the complex relations which we can build with the databases. So these are all features but not there in the EJB 2.x entities. Now we have the very new concept, that is Java Data Objects, that is JDO. It was being basically initialized to provide the other level of persistence of the data by making some effort, and basically it is going to give you good specifications which we can deal during the failures of the EJB persistence model. So the immediate previous slide what we had, where EJB 2.x model was one of the option which we can use to make our data persistence, but it comes along with lot many disadvantages. To avoid that and to overcome with those the EJB persistence model disadvantages, we can also go with the Java Data Objects. It is the another option available to make your data persistence. Now what can be the benefit when you are going to have a JDO for your application? So it can give you an ease of use with portability, data independence, database independence. It can give you the high performance. It can give you a good integration with your EJB, that is your enterprise Java Bean. Now, why there is a need of the persistence standard? Okay, so we'll just understand first the limitation, and then we have to understand that why there is a need of persistence. Okay, so here if you can see, I have an program written in the object oriented language considering that, and we'll have a database where I have created a table. Okay, so this is your object relational databases. Sorry, it is an object oriented language, it is a relational databases. That's why it is said as object relational mapping. Objects for object oriented, relational is for relational database. Now it is in written normal text language. Fine. So if I want to map, if I want to say that I am creating a table in my database, if I am having number of variables created over here where I'm expecting that I'm going to take an input from the user for these variables, and I want that these variables value should get stored directly into your tables of your database. Fine, it is not going to happen it automatically. We need some mapping code which needs to be written in between your programming and your database. Fine, so how you're going to do that? Basically the object oriented model, we all know that it is going to using a classes. Okay, we create a class, we create an object, we create a variables, number of things we create in a program. Okay, when it is following the object oriented model, whereas the relational databases are using the tables, they are not using the classes but they are using what? Tables. Okay, where we are going to have a gap between your object oriented language and the relational database, because in one place it is been using the classes, in the other place we are using the tables. So if I want the data from one place to the another one in the form of a rows and columns, I need to have something in between. So that gap is something which has been created. Okay, now this gap is something called as what? Impedance mismatch. Okay, if I want to have a data If I want the data to be, coming from your classes, from your object oriented language, what you have used to create your program, and you want to be there into the relational data table structure, if you want that your data should go to the table structure, or a vice versa. Okay, if you want to have it from the table but into the form of an object oriented language, that vice versa can also happen, but it requires a lot of tedious programming. Okay, as we all know, when we have done the servlet programming, there also, if I am just trying to make the, interaction with my programming to my databases, we need a lot of connectivity things into the language what we are going to use it. So when I'm going to have that programming differences, when I'm going to have that gap is something called as what? An impedance mismatch. Okay, so how we can remove that impedance mismatch? Please remember this term. What do you mean by impedance mismatch? The gap which is going to be there between your object oriented model and your relational databases, that is something called as what? Impedance mismatch. Now here, if I want to remove these disadvantage, obviously it is already been removed because we have used the servlet programming, we have done the servlet programming, we tried, making the database connectivity. We had seen how to write a program for the database connectivity in our program what we are going to develop it. So we have already removed it, but what is the major, in behind the scene, how it is working, what all technologies we are implementing so that it is been removed, that we are learning. Okay, so here the developers are going to need to write some, simple code, which or simple thing is required, which can be used to convert from one to the other, from one object oriented language to the relational database. Okay, and it should happen automatically. There's no need of writing the manual thing. Okay, so here to bridge that gap, to cover that gap which is there in between your object oriented model and the relational model. So basically it is something called as, when you're going to map, when you are going to be, successfully uh, you can say bridging the gap, you are, uh, just cutting down that gap, which is something called as an impedance mismatch. If you're just removing that disadvantage, it is something called as an object relational mapping, ORM. Okay, please remember this. This is a very important concept. Impedance mismatch, ORM, this is very important as per your fifth unit. Definitely one question will be there for the impedance and the object relational. Okay, regarding to ORM, there will be definitely one question will be there. So bridging the gap and removing that gap between your object oriented language and the relational model is something known as what? An object relational mapping, and nothing but the ORM. Now how you're going to map one object oriented model to the another, that is can be your relational database. So very, you can say the important approach and the most native approach what you can usually take, which is also something considered as a simple mapping, technique which we can apply between your class and the database tables. So here this approach is going to require writing a lot of code specification, which is going to help us to map one language to the database. Okay, this code specification can be complex, can be tedious and costly to the developer. Now the solution can be to overcome with the impedance mismatch is, as I told you, it's an ORM tool. Okay, it's an ORM, that is an object relational mapping. So ORM, it's nothing but it's again a simple API like your JDBC. As we know that JDBC is an API. So that means what? When I say that it's an API, so things what we are expecting as a developer has already been designed and defined into those specific API. So it's making our life easy to just make that implementation of API, just to have the use of that API, so that what is going to happen is we don't need to write a code for that. Okay, the code has already been written into those APIs and they just need to be implemented. They'll do the work what we are expecting and what we think that we need to write it for, do to do that work. Okay, so here also the ORM is again an API, Java API, which is going to help me to store and retrieve the Java objects directly from, and it can also save it to the relational database. So that mapping what we are talking about, okay, the impedance mismatch what happened between your relational or language and the databases, so that can be, bridge, that can be removed by using the ORM, and ORM is nothing but it's an API. To removing that gap between these two things is already written into your API. Okay, so removing means what? It is going to convert the language of your program, what you have written using Java, to the query language what relational database understands. Okay, so this API is designed in such a way that it will help you to store and retrieve the Java objects. Fine. Now this is also again a technique which is going to allow an application to be written in an object oriented language, and it can deal with the information such as an object. Okay, so rather than going and using the database specifics such as rows, columns, and tables, uh, you can directly go with the tool called as ORM, that is again something called as an API, again called as a software. Okay, it is something called as an object relational mapping tool, an object relational mapper. Okay, it's a piece of software that can be used to transform your one language to the another. Fine. Now, why the object relational mapping is required? Because it is going to give you a better system architecture. It is going to have a reduced code time because you don't need to code off that conversion which is required for your database. It is also going to have a caching and transaction. Okay, so there we end with our first chapter of your unit 5. I'll just go back and we'll just see what we have done today. We'll just revise it, quickly, and then we are done with this chapter. Fine. So we started with the chapter 1, that is your persistence. We have learned what persistence is. We have learned about the object relational mapping, and JP is again the Java persistence API. Okay, so what is a Java persistence API? That's an ORM tool, that's an ORM software. Fine. We have learned the information and we have learned about the definition of the data, where we know that data is an important asset to any computer application. It's an important part. It depends upon the application what we are developing, whether it is going to have the data which is going to be only read only for the customer. It can be read write for the customer, where you are allowing to have the updation and the modification, where you are going to have the fetching and using of data into the bulk. Okay, for the customer. So that all depends on the developer, that how they're developing the application. Also, what is persistence? We know uh, when the data is going to be called as persistence, when it is going to manage to survive for the day-to-day problems like your system crashes, system failures, network failures. Okay, when the data gets corrupt, when the multiple user request needs to be available for the data, and it is going to be simultaneously. Obviously it is not going to be one-to-one request, it is going to be simultaneous request. So in all those situations, when the data is going to get survived, that's something called as a persistence of the data. To make an enterprise application architecture, in an enterprise application architecture, data persistence is going to be implemented when it is going to have a data store outside the application into something called as an object relational databases. Next is going to be the rollback system, when in case of system failure, there is you can say the option should be available where I can get my data by rolling it back, by going back to the previous place where the actual valid data was coming to that state, and we can just roll back all my data. When choosing the persistence data storage place, we need to understand two qualifiers, that is the length of the time and the volume of the data what you're going to have it. So it is very much you can say accepted that instead of using the sessions and the HTTP session, just go with the persistence of the data which can happen in your external databases. What do you mean by persistence in Java? Obviously, it is something where it is going to save the data into the relational databases. It is going to, persistence in Java is going to generally happens when I'm going to store the data into the relational database using SQL query. There in Java, we require a JDBC API. I told you why it is required. It is exclusively made for the Java. Okay, we have another option also, that is ODBC. But when we have a JDBC and most of the, you can say the databases, relational databases are supporting the JDBC API, then why not to use the JDBC, which is only meant for the Java? Okay. Then persistence of object oriented model. We all know that there are object oriented languages which is been used for the most of the development of the applications, and they're all based on the objects because they're object oriented. And if I they also have number of features like inheritance, polymorphisms, associations. Okay, so when we want to deal with the data store, that means your databases, which can be your RDBMS. Okay, so it is basically, we have to note that they are going to work in the form of a tables. They're not going to take the objects from the language, so that becomes an issue. Why the object oriented model is being used? Because we have the business logic which is going to be implemented in Java. Okay, it is going to have number of features like inheritance and polymorphism, code reusability, maintainability, the platform independence. So all these features comes along with your object oriented model. Why relational database? Obviously what we are trying to do is data persistency is going to provide us, okay, with the flexibility and robustness approach. We know that there are number of options are available for making the data persistence in Java. The very first is your serialization. It is going to save your objects data and the state in the form of a bytes, okay, but it is been coming with a number of limitations. So the limitations can be your large amount of data, it's not suitable for those large amount of data. There is a lack of data integrity, no concurrent access been given, no querying capabilities available, that means no SQL capabilities there with the serialization, which can overcomes all the disadvantage of serialization comes overcomes by the JDBC. Okay, just only one thing that it is not going to have fully interaction with the database. Okay, so another option which is available to make your data persistence is your EJB2 entity beans, that is your Java beans, which we use basically in our EJB. If you have seen, we had an EJB container where we had an EJB Java beans. So basically that Java beans are going to also be used for your persistence of your data to make your data persistence. But unfortunately we know that there are number of disadvantages we had in the EJB 2.x entities. That means whatever versions we have more than 2.x, so they are coming with number of disadvantages. They are very slow, they are very difficult to code, not serializable, requires one-to-one mapping, which is, I think, in today's world we don't expect that one-to-one interaction with the database tables. It is very much expensive application. It is going to require a very expensive application to make your EJB run. Okay, it requires a specific EJB developer to deal with this basically technology to make the data persistence. It doesn't offer number of features like your inheritance, polymorphism. Then we have JDO that is also been initialized to provide the another persistence specification or a data persistency. Uh, it was one of the you can say the option which is available to overcome with the failure of an EJB persistence model. It has number of features. It is very much easy to use. It is giving the portability. There is a data independence, which is going to have a high performance. There is going to be an integration with EJB. We have learned that what object relational mapping is. We have an object oriented language, we have a relational database. When they are going to map to each other, that is something called as object relational mapping. But doing that mapping, you have to understand that object oriented model is using the classes, where the relational databases are using the table, so which is going to create a gap. That gap is something called as what, an impedance mismatch. Okay, to make that conversion happen between the relational and the object oriented language, it requires lot of codes to be written. Okay, so here when this conversion happens, we need that this conversion should happens automatically. So for that need, we have a specific tool and API, that is ORM. Okay, that is an object relational mapping. The gap, when we are going to bridge the gap, which we are going to reduce between the object oriented model and the relational model, that is something called as an object relational mapping. How we are going to map one to the another? When we are going to have the this approach where it is going to have a simple mapping technique between your uh, class and the database table, where you don't where you basically you need to write a lot of code when you are not going to use an ORM. Okay, so basically when you are not using an ORM, you need to write a lot of code to remove that. Okay, we have an inbuilt API, that is an ORM tool, an ORM API, and ORM software, whatever you can call it. So that is going to be used, and it is going to be designed in such a way that it is going to have an automatic conversion of the language of a programming language to the database language. Okay, that is something also called as an object relational mapper. It comes with the following advantages: that it is providing the better system architecture, it is having the reduced code time, uh, comes with caching and transactions. Fine, so we are done with the chapter, students. I'll just stop sharing this. If you have any doubt, you can ask me now.